warm welcome to our next video cast, exploring a theme that probably many organizations face, namely navigating the cloud native maze. And to help us not getting lost in that maze, I'm really delighted to have with me Sorabh Singhal, Global Head of Digital Transformation Service at Wipro. Sorabh, delighted to have you. Hope you're well.
Thank you, Tom. Very much appreciate being here. Thank you.
Great to have you. So, Sorabh, I was just building on that. See, many transformations fail, and we just published last week a big piece of research. Two-thirds of organizations struggle to achieve their strategic objective with cloud-enabled transformations. From your experience, what's a good way to navigating that maze? I mean, there are many things to untangle, so some of to unpack, but if you would try to give our listeners a view, how do you guide them? What are the pitfalls to look out for?
Looking at a cloud transformation or any transformation, cloud does not exist for itself. It exists for business. So every time we'll talk about any kind of transformation in the enterprise or the business context, I believe understanding the fundamentals of why we are doing it, what is the business objective of what we are trying to achieve, and understanding both the migration triggers in the context of cloud and the innovation triggers in the context of business actually help us determine how we navigate the maze, what is the sequence of events that need to occur, which capabilities we need to tackle first from a business standpoint, and so forth.
I think anything I learned anything from all those discussions of the last, don't know, God knows, 12 months, 18 months looking at that topic. Cloud has to become a business discussion. I think all too often the industry is still talking technologies, capabilities, and if anything, some of them are the people hopefully also reading the piece of research we jointly published with you guys at Wipro. I think there's a lot of wealth in there to do so. But just building on that, I don't know, many organizations struggle to almost on one hand, the key thing is the reason why so many transformations fail is a misalignment of technology and business objectives. I think you were touching upon it. But with the same token, they struggle to get a sense what's its future state. If I'm honest, I don't think the industry has done a good job explaining what is its future state, because it has to be much more. Again, if it's a business conversation, what does it really mean? Again, how do you guide your clients around those issues?
We are talking in terms of dimensions of change. And when we look at cloud transformation, it's a phenomenal platform. This was a piece of the puzzle that was always missing. Like from the early days of early 2000, when we talked of business agility, agile transformation, the piece that was always a puzzle was, do we have the tech? Do we have the platform that is nimble, that is agile, that is modular enough for us to move at the pace at which we want to move? So what we are doing, Tom, now is looking at it from the perspective of what are those dimensions of change that has to be kept in sight when we are talking about native transformation. And those dimensions, in my opinion, appear in 4 or 5 ways. They're also reflected in the 6 vectors that you've listed in the report very beautifully. I really love the 6 vectors that you mentioned in the report. But the conversations when I'm getting in front of, we are talking about, how to change the operating model to align to product alignment or service alignment, whatever the business the client is in. What is the architecture transformation that needs to occur associated with that? So there's a dimension of architecture and what modularity within the application architecture. And then there is a dimension of ways of working, which is a combination of both the process as well as the associated production processes from a DevSecOps standpoint, observability standpoint. And when you bring all of these pieces together, you start to see where are the white spaces at the intersection of these things. And the conversation we are having with the clients is, of course, always start with the business reasons, business triggers as to why we are doing this. And therefore, you will know which capabilities to tackle first. But then as you start, wherever you start, you will start to see where the white space is at the intersections of all these capabilities, allowing us to see if we have to be successful, what does the full spectrum look like? And underlying this is the talent, the talent of the future that we need, the talent transformation we need to take underneath is what is the foundation for this. So that's how I envision it. Like as I speak this, I'm actually forming a mental picture because that's how I have this conversation with the client. So definitely it is in the white spaces which we miss out, and which we have been missing out in the past.
keep that picture for a moment because my follow-on question is, your colleague Manish Bhushan put it quite succinctly. The cloud target operating model is actually not about cloud. It's about a roadmap. It's about agility. It's about pivoting. I think we're both talking about it to business value. And I think that's where we see people get agility, they get some efficiency with technology transformation, but they struggle big time to capture business value from their investment. If that's the case, I think probably one of the key things in there is change management. Don't know what's your experience, don't know what your learnings coming from this engagement you have done. So how do you helping clients thinking through this critical element of change management?
See, it's a hard one. We obviously do some structured initiatives around chain management, whether it establishing a cloud center of excellence and mandating them to drive the change within the enterprise as change champions, establishing the guardrails of how the operations will take place, establishing the governance of how governance should take place, training and coaching people how to benefit from the investments already made onto the cloud native platform and capabilities. But it is also a lot about how do you take every single role within the enterprise and define what the future of their role looks like. And that is a much more broader transformation that needs to occur, because it is a mindset change from the way you measure things to how we operationalize things to how we even outsource in the new world of cloud native. So there is an element of this change that is a slow change, and I see that we are still in our journey in lots of different places at a lot of different clients where we are enabling this change, and there isn't any one size fits all, unfortunately. So as much as I would like us to have one, there is bundle of approaches that we take to clients that have been successful depending on the culture of the client, the investments they have already made, the business alignment and the executive alignment we have, the commitments we have, and so forth.
Just building on that and to close us out, what are the missing pieces in the big cloud jigsaw? Is it, for instance, FinOps evolving into much broader notion, some of moving towards business assurance? Is it some of the much touted industry cloud? Or is the question actually not framed accurately? Is it the other way around? Is it much more about orchestration of many disparate pieces? What's your thinking? How do you guide your clients on that? What's next?
See, I think all clients have moved somewhat on the chessboard. And I use this analogy because if you think about it, it is not any one piece. There are multiple pieces that are moving together to succeed, right, in the game, right? So when we look at clients, we find these pieces where there is still some ground to cover. So creating an organization that is more like product or service oriented organization that is thinking not in terms of functional silos, but in thinking in terms of products and capabilities and services. Some organizations are now, they had put a pause to this. They started doing it with agile transformation. They put a pause to it because they found the cloud native, but we are back to that, now looking at, so that is a piece that is an important one because it is also associated with objectives and key results that are how you define in your vectors as continuous goals is the method to do it. So that's one piece. The other piece that we see it is like enabling the developers in your environment. So truly providing them the environment in which they can be most productive, most efficient, and able to use the latest and greatest capabilities out there. And particularly now with Gen AI, Code Assist, automated testing through Gen AI, and we built some really great capabilities. And I know I also have I mentioned Gen AI, but it is very early days and it is nascent. But there are some nice capabilities we are seeing out there. So enabling the developers is the piece through all of those capabilities. And I think the big work that is yet to be done is around the architecture. So modernizing the architecture for what it can do on the cloud through microservices, through serverless architectures is yet a dream kind of in a lot of places for core capabilities or a lot of clients. So I think those are the big pieces. Thing where we are also seeing experimentation happen a lot is things are changing. Like I feel that we are having this conversation a bit little late in what we are having today because technology is changing so fast. So I also feel that the talent transformation has to be front and center of everything. Where I don't think organizations. I really love the phrase in your report with one of the CIOs mentioning that is work in progress, or that is still like I'm paraphrasing it. So that talent transformation piece, organizations are still figuring out what are the skill sets of the future that different roles will have to be prepared with, and that's something that is definitely a piece on the chessboard that isn't fully addressed.
Thanks. When I said, we have to learn, I think learning from your experience, I think there's so much great insights coming through. And if anything, we have to broaden the discussion. And this is why we also have done the research, but also we need more discussions on that. And hopefully, the message is loud and clear.
Yeah.
Cloud has to become a business discussion. And if we get that across, I hope we achieved a lot. With that, Sorabh, big thank you. Looking very much forward to the next discussion.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity.